Okay, welcome to the Edlow podcast. I have a very special guest. Hello, Albert Ochoa. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for coming on. Especially considering where you're at this Saturday, you got a fight.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so tell us about that. What are you doing, and where is it at? What are you doing?
Well, my next fight is going to be in Atlantic City. I'm very excited. I've improved so much. And yeah, I'm just excited and happy, and the time's here.
Who are you fighting?
I'm finding some rapper, some dude that thinks he's gonna beat me up, but he's not gonna beat me up. I've trained hard and I work hard, despite what people say. So
Oh, do people saying you're not training hard?
I mean, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't think I take it serious. I mean, a lot of people don't give me the credit I deserve. I mean, a lot of people don't. I mean, I see it all the time. I don't let it get to me. I just laugh at it. I've had a lot of people switch up on me since I've joined the sport. But at the end of the day, I'm chasing a goal. I'm chasing a dream, and so far, I'm doing pretty well.
Well, I'll tell you what, success feels best when nobody believes in you. So
Hmm.
I think it's great that I'll tell you what, I've seen your videos. I follow you, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those places,
Yeah,
and I see all your training videos, and I can see. I mean, I'm not a trained eye.
yeah.
I've watched a lot of boxing my whole life, but I can see the improvement
Thank you.
even in just your body. I can see like the muscle tone, like, you're clearly working out, you're doing it the right way.
Hmm.
So I can see that the hand speed's there. Your last fight was when was it? The last fight?
That was in June.
Okay. So and who did you fight in June?
Some wrestler slash actor, and some people talked a lot about that one. Said I'm not a good fighter or said it was this and that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I got the job done. If I would have lost, people would have talked bad. I won, people still talked bad. So
So
yeah,
I remember I followed that and I got to tell you, you hit him hard. I saw you.
yeah,
The knockout punch was hard. The
yeah.
way he fell looked funky. And
I mean, at the end, he told my trainer, and then he said, I mean, it was a good shot. He was tired. I mean, he just wanted to be done, and that was it. I beat him up.
yeah,
And
so I don't know if you saw, I had Tony on a couple of my podcasts ago.
yeah,
He came on and talked, and that's what he said. He said the guy came in, he said he hit me hard, and I didn't want any more business like that, so I just fell.
yeah, that's
So
funny.
that's great.
Yeah,
So
but go ahead.
oh no, I'm just curious. What is your motivation? I mean, so we know. We'll start from the beginning. I mean,
Hmm.
Albert Ochoa becomes kind of famous
Yeah,
kind of out of
thank you.
nowhere, right? You
Yeah,
were born here in Sacramento, right?
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
and what high school did you go to?
I went to Rio Americano for 3 years, and then I transferred my senior year
Where'd you go? Where'd you go your senior year?
to Mariloma.
Oh, okay, all right. And is that where the famous homecoming happened in Mariloma, or were you at Rio?
No, that happened at Rio. So that happened my junior year, and then after that, I got out of there, transferred somewhere else. So
so you're did you grow up in like the Carmichael area or Gold River? Where were you?
grew up over there. Yeah, by right by Sac State La Riviera area. That's
Oh,
where I grew up at. Was I born there? No, I wasn't born there.
okay.
But I was growing up there for school. Yeah.
Okay. And then how did that come about?
The Kylie Jenner stuff. Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
took Kylie Jenner to my prom, and people went crazy. I mean, people were excited. I gained a lot of fans and attraction from that. Believe it or not, she reached out to me, and she wanted to have a date, and I said yeah.
So how did she know you even existed? Was this like one of those things where you had like a thing on social media or whatever and just said like I need a date or what? Like how did she even find out you were looking for a
Uh,
date?
but I still ask that question to this day. It was she just said she liked what she saw, and she felt like I was different. She saw a lot of similarities, and she was different too. We both didn't follow the crowd, and we both had a goal, and she accomplished a lot. And for me, I'm on my way there, and I'm just working hard.
Wow. So before that, Did she reach out to you? Like, did she reach out to you on Twitter, or did she get your phone number? How did she get a
It
hold of
was
you?
on it was on Instagram, and it was literally just that. I was a normal high school student training every day. I was still working hard towards my goal. And I mean, I'm still normal now, but she reached out, and it was it was like that. And and then from there just everything went so fast, and everything was special.
So when you say training, were you training to be a boxer back then?
No, I wasn't training to be a boxer. I was training to be a basketball player. That's
Oh,
something that I thought I would do for college. I loved that sport all my life, and I was training. I think I know for a fact I was the most hardworking student as an athlete. At Rio, no one could tell me otherwise. And slowly but surely, it paid off. I was happy doing it, and that sport ended up doing a different sport now.
yeah. Well, I'm a Del Campo guy, so you know how I feel about Rio Americano. But,
Okay, okay.
but what position did you play in basketball?
Well, they had me at shooting guard, but for me to realistically, I needed to play point guard.
Mhm.
Um, but as much as I love that school at that time, it just wasn't the right fit. When you grow up, somewhere else, and you're not from the area, and you haven't been. I mean, you're different. When you're different and you grow up in a different area, and you're not, you don't have a lot of similarities with a lot of people. So people
Mhm.
could look at that different.
Yeah.
And Rio, I was very different. I was different from everybody, so I didn't get the attention I deserved. I didn't get, as much as I worked hard, it didn't matter. And I experienced that at a very young age. And I
So
don't.
when you say you were different, explain. Tell me more about that. What was the
Just
difference?
Yeah, different as in, just being, a Hispanic,
Mhm.
in a all, in a majority, I mean, Caucasian, neighborhood, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it, but will there be some people that look at you different? Yeah,
Mhm.
of course, that's just life. That's how it is now. Um,
Mhm.
but did I let that get to me? No, I worked hard. Everyone knows I worked hard. No matter with what I do, school wasn't hard. School was very hard for me on the academic side, but I graduated, I passed, I was doing good. But as an athlete, I think, sometimes people don't get that recognition just based on who or where you grew up. And that's what it was.
So, school's hard. Is this just were there certain subjects you just weren't a fan of? Like me,
Uh,
I couldn't handle math. I'm a lawyer now because I don't need to know math really. I couldn't. It just didn't make. When you start adding letters to numbers and
yeah.
talking about the hypotenuse of a triangle or whatever, I go, okay, give me a book
Yeah.
to read. I don't know.
School was just, I mean, it was just something I felt like the education system when I was there. I think even now, there's a lot of teachers that don't know how to teach. They're teaching out
Mhm.
of a book, and this is
Yeah.
this is true facts. They're teaching out of a book, and
Mhm.
not everyone can understand that way. And it's like they're reading a book that's 100 years old that is trying to teach you, and it's like I didn't really want to learn about certain things that didn't really matter. I wanted to
Mhm.
learn how to like be an entrepreneur. I wanted to learn how to make money. I wanted to learn how to be smart with what you make, even if it's $100. I want to be smart. With that, I wanted to learn. Life skills. I think those are very important skills to have in high school. I think those need to be taught in school, even in middle school. That life stuff needs to be taught, not just reading out of a book, out of a.
It's funny that you say that because I've very much agree. When I was in high school, I remember I had to take economics, and I thought, even at that age, I thought, okay, so they're going to teach me how to balance a checkbook. I mean,
Yeah.
back when I was younger, we had checkbooks, right? They're
Uh-huh.
like they're going to teach you teach you about credit cards.
Hmm.
If even like little things like if people understood the concept of compound interest, and
Yeah.
what I mean by that is the idea that how much money you truly pay for that. If you go to Chipotle and you put that on a credit card, how much you're really paying for that bowl of Chipotle, and
Yeah.
how much money, when you're getting that minimum payment, how much of that is really going to the principal, and how long it's going to take you to pay it off.
Yeah.
And then also the idea of investments and doing things like that, and how compound interest over time can work for you, and making your, and what investing into a 401k can do for you. And
Yeah. See,
you
that's
know,
all the stuff that I want to learn in high school.
right, right. So
Uh,
have you kind of taken that on yourself? I mean, now, I mean, I'm assuming, when you're doing, so you're considered a celebrity boxer right now, right?
mhm.
Because
Yeah,
you're,
or an influencer boxer. Yeah,
yeah.
YouTube boxing.
So do you have people in place to help you with that? Or are you trying to learn that on your own? How you doing that?
Well, right now, I'm started boxing the promotion. It's a big company. It's in front of an audience. It's on TV. I'm using it as a stepping stone. I'm using it because it's building my platform. It's building me up. A lot of people just jump straight to, these big fights, and they're not ready for it. Sorry,
Mm,
boxing is still a fight at the end of the day. You still have to train. You still have to
sure.
do a lot of these things. And for me, I'm training like a professional. I'm working with champions. I'm working very hard. I train every day. The only days I've missed is when I was sick or if I was injured. But even if I'm injured, I still go to the gym to figure other things out to improve on. Um, I'm taking it very serious, despite it, me fighting a rapper or a wrestler.
Yeah.
Um, and the goal is to turn professional. That's what I'm working so hard for. I believe I'm gonna have a big debut when that time comes. Right now, people are watching my fights. People know where I'm fighting. I've been blessed with a platform. I've been blessed with people to look up to me. So right now, I'm just taking my time. I'll be fighting again for them on this weekend, and I'm very excited. And yeah, I mean, I take it serious.
So going back real quick, because we'll definitely talk about your fight this weekend. But
Yeah.
so when Kylie Jenner
Mhm.
hits you up out of the blue on Instagram, were you like, that's got to be a bot, right? Like, that can't be, this can't be real, because everybody gets the messages from the real attractive girl who's like, oh, hey sir,
Yeah.
and it's like broken English, and you're going like, yeah, this ain't real, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think when you randomly get a message from Kylie Jenner?
Yeah, I mean, it's just what do I think? I mean, it was fun. It was a good experience. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, she's nice. She's giving me advice. To this day, and yeah, I mean, it was just
You're still,
special. Very,
you guys still in contact?
yeah. So we talk. Here and there. I mean, she has a kid now.
Yeah,
So she's focused on that. I'm focused on boxing,
yeah.
and
Yeah. You're like,
yeah,
she's got a kid now, so no thanks, I'm good.
yeah.
We're just friends.
Yeah. No, so right now, I'm just focused on that and just venturing off, and so far it's working in my favor. I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities, especially me joining, the boxing world. So I'm very humbled and excited for this
Yeah.
journey.
So walk me through. I mean, so from I understand you meet Kylie Jenner. She goes to your homecoming at Rio,
Or
right?
prom, yeah.
Prom. Okay, so she goes to your prom, and they film it for her reality series, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then airs. Do you like, boom? I've got 100,000 people following me on Instagram, or what happens next?
Well, it was literally like that. Like it went viral, and it was so crazy. I was getting thousands and thousands of followers. Just me not even posting anything. It was just because people were talking about it. The news came. ABC was there, E News was there, TMZ was there. So
Yeah.
like it was just already trending, especially in Sacramento. Not a lot of. I mean, there's some things that happen in Sacramento, but Kylie Jenner to come to Sacramento, it's not the
Right.
norm. So.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
that, yeah, it was literally just thousands and thousands and thousands of followers coming.
Wow. That's just overnight. You're just like, whoa, now what do I do with this? And so,
Yeah.
okay, I got to ask the question.
Hmm.
All right, at the end of the night,
Yeah.
what happens? You give her, you get the good night kiss? What happened?
Well, I'll say what when I was on E News, I said the same thing. I was a complete gentleman.
Ah,
I was a complete gentleman, and I respect women, and yeah, I'll keep it at that.
the
But she was cool. We
politician's
had a lot of
answer.
alone time.
Good. Politician's answer. I like it.
Yeah.
No, that's good, man. I try to teach my kids the same thing. I was talking to my son. He's turning 16 this Sunday, and
Nice.
that was the deal. He doesn't get to date till he's 16, and he's been good with that.
Yeah.
But we started talking about that type of stuff, and that was one of the things I told him was I go, you don't want to be a guy who kisses and tells. You don't
Mhm.
want to be a guy who brags about your exploits because it doesn't look great. So be
Yeah.
the guy that's respectful, and I think that's great that you're keeping it. Whatever happened, you're keeping it between the two of you. I think that's good.
Yeah.
So okay, so now tell me, you all of a sudden have these people, and I see you're constantly posting.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you as a social media influencer, you got to you kind of it's kind of expected, right? That you're posting about things, and I see a lot of different stuff. Did you, when this happened to you overnight, did you call other influencers and be like, what do I do now? Or did you have somebody help you, or you just kind of figure it out on your own as you went?
Believe it or not, back when I was at Rio, I always wanted to have a following. I always wanted to learn how to, make some kind of revenue, even if it's $10, $20,
Mm,
from your phone. I always wanted to learn that.
mm,
And, I didn't know how it was gonna happen or what or how I was gonna do it, but a year later, I gained an audience and then but believe it or not, yeah, the people that I used to like follow and see on TV or look up to, I end up being their friends. I end up having their phone numbers. I end up meeting these people, and I would ask them, I was like, "Hey, how do you do this? How do you write an email to a brand? How do you just in general? How do you do it? Or like, what do you do? If they're doing it, how do you do it?" So I always ask a ton of questions,
yeah.
and I've been blessed with to meet the people that I actually looked up to when they were on TV, and have respect for, and now to call them a friend, and it's special. So
Yeah.
yeah, asked a lot of
That's awesome.
questions.
A lot of questions. When did you
Yeah,
feel like, so now you're how old now?
22
Okay. So you've been kind of on this road now for what, 5, 6 years?
since 18. Yeah,
Oh, since
something like that.
18. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, 4 or 5 years now.
Hmm.
Did you feel at some point like you kind of hit your stride? Like you're like, okay, now I get it. And then did
Hmm.
the following kind of build from there, or has it stayed stagnant? Like how is it? How's
Okay,
it?
so on to that part. So the following built even more because it was filmed for a reality TV show.
Hmm.
TV shows don't go air to, it could be 6 months, it could be 4 months to a year.
Uh,
So that stuff happened. People were waiting for me to talk about it, for her to talk about it. And then when the show happened 6 months later, no, 4 months later, it was supposed to air. So they built all this promo, a lot of stuff. So I was getting a lot of more traction. People were coming back like, oh snap, like I remember this. Now we're finally going to see what happened. So 4 months later happens. I gain all those followers. I gain thousands and thousands, people waiting, and stuff. But the show didn't air on that day. It got postponed. So that was actually
hmm.
beneficial to me because all that promo I ended up getting even more.
Yeah.
So the show came out, I think, 6, 7 months out later, and yeah, it built even more because it needed more promo, it needed more everything. More interviews, more a lot of everything. So I gained even more traction because people were still waiting from that night to be seen on national TV.
Oh wow. And then after the fact, I'm assuming you finally started doing the promos afterwards and talking to news
Yeah,
people,
stuff like that. Yeah, exactly,
and then
exactly.
that
So I didn't
probably
say
helped.
it a word, for 7 months, and people were like, "Oh, no one's gonna know about it. No one's gonna talk about it."
Mm,
People were still talking about it. And people still talk about it to this day because TikTok came out. You look up the Kylie Jenner prom or Albert Ochoa prom with Kylie, it's at millions and millions and millions of views. Like
yeah.
this new video I seen. It had like 8 million views. Like that's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome. Wow.
yeah. So the following just keeps building from there and there. And then what was your other question again?
Oh, so is there a time where you kind of were like, okay, now I get this,
Oh
and
yeah. To be honest, one year, I think from the other people, entrepreneurs and other successful people I've met, a lot of them says, hey, it's going to take time for you to understand. It's going to take time for any business, for anything.
yeah,
And I really believe that, like, people did 4 years of high school, 4 years of college. I didn't. I took that 4 years to ask questions, to meet these people, to travel. Even when I only have $1 to my name, I still did whatever I had to do to try to make it.
yeah.
And I would say it took about 4 years, yeah, like till now, to where like, or till I would say till about last year. Like ever since I started boxing, really, I've understand it more. I've always tried every day. I've gotten better, and every day I learn something new. But I would
Yeah.
say it took about 4 years to finally get it, finally understand, finally know what to do. And
Well,
yeah.
I got to tell you, I got to praise you a little bit because, especially at your age, you know, uh, a lot of people, I see it a lot where they want something, but it doesn't come super quick,
Mhm.
right? And so, I mean, yours kind of came quick, but it sounds like even though you kind of didn't know what to do with it, you kept at it, you kept at it, you kept at it, and then finally one day you it kind of clicks and
Mhm.
it starts really building. And so
Correct.
that's pretty cool. So now you're a social media influencer, you're doing these things. How does the boxing come up?
Um, I mean, just I would say about a year ago. A year ago, I put on the gloves, and I was very blessed to just meet the right people at the right time. It first started. The idea was someone texted me because they saw Jake Paul fighting. They seen all these other guys with followers fighting. Someone was like, "Hey, Albert, I think you could do it. I'm all out of shape. I gained weight. I'm not working out as I used to. Yeah, and I was fat. I was over 200 pounds, 205 pounds. Going from
Uh,
150. I gained a lot of weight.
yeah,
Um, and I was like, you know what? I think I can. I think I really can. And through time, I reached out to a few people. They said no. I was like, okay. I reached. I just keep doing what I'm doing. Stay focused. Stay positive. Hey, a few months later, I think 4 months later. Yeah, 4 months later, hey, you want a shot? You want an opportunity? And I took it.
yeah.
I
Is
took
that
it.
something that you always uh so like you hear about like Jake Paul, because I remember when I saw Jake Paul fight the first time, because I got the Tyson versus Jones fight, and he was
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
undercard against Nate Robinson. And I
Uh-huh.
remember looking at that dude and being like, I hope he gets plowed, because
Yeah,
he was such a punk. And then
yeah,
he dropped him, and he got out there and he goes, yeah, like I'm taking this seriously. I've been training for this for like a year.
yeah.
And then next thing and then he knocks out Ben Askren, and then he knocks out, didn't he just drop another MMA guy too? I
Tyrone
mean,
Willie, and Tyrone Willie was a
yeah,
champion of the
Tyrone
world.
Woodley. Yeah, and he's starting he's like, okay, he's legit. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
But he seemed to want that. Like he wanted to be a boxer for a
Mhm.
long time.
Yeah.
Did you want to be a boxer, or was it a situation where like, well, hey, celebrity boxing's a thing, maybe I should give it a shot? How did it in your mind, how did the idea to become a boxer come about?
I mean, I think it came into that when someone sent me that, hey, I think you
Mm.
should do it, or hey, I think you can do it. And when the opportunity came, I had a lot of no's, but then someone said yes, and they believed in me, and I was still 205 pounds, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then
So
I took the opportunity, and I can honestly say, boxing has changed my life. I fell in love with the sport. I've been very blessed with the people that are around me. Starting off, these people that I'm meeting, they're like, dang, you're working with a world champ right away. I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, bro, that's not normal. That is not common in this sport.
yeah.
So for me to work with, a few world champions already starting off my career, it's special and it's a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I've known Tony a long time, and uh, I know you're training elsewhere now down in Vegas, but
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have
He had
him
some
start,
words to say, huh?
what's that?
He had some words to say about me, huh?
Oh no, he actually he's had lots of good things to say about you. He said, he goes, yeah, man, the kid, if you listen to the podcast, he was very respectful, and even off the podcast when I talked to him about it, he said, he goes, that kid, his big thing for you was, he said, sometimes kids will come in and they'll say they want to fight, and
Mhm.
I'll go, okay, and I'll show them what to do, and I'll say, hey, you got to do this every day, so come back next week, but you got to
Mhm.
practice on this every day.
Mhm.
And he's like, and some of them will and some of them won't. And he was
Yeah. No,
like,
I saw the podcast, but
yeah, and he's like, Albert will. Albert did it.
mhm. Yeah.
And he had nothing but good things to say about you. I mean, I think he was, he wished he would have been able to keep training you a little bit, but
Okay.
other than that, I think, he had nothing but good things to say, and said that you worked hard, and
Yeah.
that's all, for me, that's where you gain my respect, is that I tell my kids this all the time. I go, hey man, listen, I don't care I don't care if you try your hardest and get a D in school. I just want you to try your hardest, because I
Yeah,
believe if you try your hardest, you're going to get an A. And like for
correct.
you, man, like I said, I'm looking at your stuff, and I don't know the first thing about boxing training. For all I know, I love boxing. I've been watching it my whole life.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know anything about how boxers train. So you're
Yeah,
telling me you're training like a professional. I believe you.
yeah,
But I can, all I know is I see the videos and you're constantly training, you're working hard. It's not good. If you if you fail or if you succeed, it's not, if you do end up failing or you end up not having a great record, it's not going to be for lack of trying. You know what I mean? And I don't think you can look yourself in the mirror and say I didn't give it my best effort.
yeah.
So then you're sitting there, and so you developed a passion over time. It wasn't something you were passionate about, but as you got into it, you fell in love with it.
I mean, I think I was passionate since the first day I did it. I kept coming
Yeah.
back. There's
Mm,
been people that don't come back in the gym that say they want to do it. I
yeah.
kept coming back, and I work hard. I believe Tony also said that he didn't think it was for me, or he said something, or we'll see how he is now.
Yeah.
Um, but Tony not training me wasn't my decision. If you
Mm.
didn't know that, it was actually his decision.
Ah, interesting.
And I would, I miss Tony. I have nothing bad to say about him, but he was the one that made his decision. He was
Mhm.
I felt like, there was times where I was maybe taking advantage just a little bit.
Mhm.
But again, I have nothing bad to say about Tony. He helped me get the win. He did his job. But for Tony to say that I don't want it, or that we'll see how he trains now, or my next fight, it kind of felt a little disrespectful.
Mm.
But again, uh, it was Tony's decision to not train me.
Mm.
I wanted Tony to train me. He wasn't happy with certain things, and it's like, how are you not happy with certain things when we've been doing so well together? Sacramento was talking about us. We had the news every weekend in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Not many boxers do get those opportunities, and yeah, Tony has a name. I have a name as well, but I think my work ethic is what showed why these news people need to come, why these people were entertained. And, I have love for Tony. He's always going to be family and someone I love. But it was his decision.
Mm.
So,
That's interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I found in these in whenever there's a relationship that kind of ends for whatever reason, there's always two sides to the story. Somewhere in the middle is probably where it happens, and
yeah,
but the thing is, though, is that even if you and Tony never train together again, one of the things that I think is cool about this is that he got you your start. He got you your first win, and
yeah.
that's impressive. And the guy. So now you're training in Vegas with who?
So now, fast forward after Tony, I'm training with 4-time world champion Joe Casamayor.
Oh man, how is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it's a blessing, man. To be in Las Vegas in the heart of boxing, to train with a world champion that was great, with the name, that's a real trainer that lives in the gym, that's gonna love everyday training me. Um, it's a blessing. I'm here. I'm right by the strip. I've been blessed with so many good opportunities, and I'm always so grateful and thankful for it. And to have him as my second trainer, my second camp, it's a blessing. Because I meet
Yeah.
a lot of these guys, and they're like, "Man, you're motivating me." I'm like, "Bro, you're motivating me. You're a professional."
Yeah, I've seen you got pictures with Rampage Jackson. You got pictures with,
Yeah,
I mean, like,
Tito
who do you
Ortiz.
think is the biggest name boxer that you've kind of come in contact with since you started training down in Vegas?
Well, right now, I mean, me and Rolly, we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
We train together. That dude, he's a great fighter. He just fought Gervonta Davis on Showtime, sold out Barclays Center.
Yeah.
Um, I would say him. He's a good dude, and for me to call him a friend now is special. I met a lot of great people though. I met, T Ortiz got to watch me train. Rampage Jackson got to see me train. I mean, Joe Casamayor got to see me. He's my trainer. There's a lot of people that I came across that is just it's special. Coming from
Mhm.
Sacramento here, it's I
Yeah.
feel like I'm on the right path.
So do you plan on, I mean, obviously things can change from fight to fight, but are you on a deal with them where you got a certain amount of fights with them, or is
With my training, my
yeah,
trainers.
with your trainer?
Well, I mean, I didn't plan on switching trainers. I didn't plan on not working with Tony. Me and Tony always talked about my future. Always talked about, man, imagine 10 fights in, imagine 20 fights in. we're making, and I always saw Tony as my main trainer. I mean, it sucks. Maybe I'm still a little hurt about that situation because I didn't do anything wrong. I really didn't. And despite what people say, I didn't do nothing wrong. I was training every day, and I'm the fighter. I'm the fighter. I have to fight. He's not. And I didn't I didn't plan on switching trainers. But with Joel, we're going fight to fight. And I fell in love with his training. It's very different from how Tony was training me. It's very different on a lot of aspects. But right now, we're just I'm taking my time. I'll just focus on this weekend, and after I get this win, I plan on still working with Joel out here in Las Vegas.
So, for boxing training, you said something interesting there. You said that you're kind of working on things that you weren't working on with Tony. Do you think that makes you a little more well-rounded? Do you think that that's kind of a struggle? Because I'm not a boxer, I'm a basketball player, and I just know if you stay within the system long enough, the longer you're in a system and the same players are there, it kind of works better over time, right? If you're on the same coach for a few years, you see that that's the problem with the Kings right now, right? Is that they've continually had to trade the system, and so nobody really. So do you think that in this situation it makes you a better fighter? Do you think it becomes a struggle? What do you think?
No, I definitely understand what you're saying and what you're talking about. At first, it was hard. It was hard. The first few weeks, I didn't understand. It was so different. Over here in Las Vegas, you're with professionals. Everyone's a professional in that gym. You don't really see kids there, and I wasn't used to it. And it was so high, fast paced. It's like, damn, I got to learn so quickly. And for me, and I think Tony has mentioned it too on several interviews, I'm a quick learner when it comes to this sport. I've improved so much, and there's people that don't improve at all.
Yeah.
But from Tony's system to Joe Casamoro's system, it's very different because Tony was teaching me how to fight. And he's said that many times. He's teaching me how to fight, and I'm going to just go and fight. Out here. And that was very old school of boxing, and it worked. I have nothing wrong with that. It was hard. Tony trains hard. And for me to do that every day, I did it. But with Joe Casamayor, one champ to another, Joel said, hey, why are you staying in one spot? Why aren't you moving? Why aren't you using your legs? Why aren't you moving your head? Do you want to stay there and get hit? So he's teaching me to box. Tony was teaching me how to fight because he was a fighter. That's what he was. Tony never said he was a boxer. He said he was a fighter. Yeah. This guy, Joe Casamora is teaching me you need to box. Fighting is you're not gonna have a long career. Longevity wise, if this is what you want, you can't get hit in the head that many times. It's dangerous, And for me, when I'm 40, 50 years old, I want to be able to fully talk still. I want to be able to, talk to my grandkids and kids. And yeah, nothing wrong with what Tony, taught me, but I use that, and then I'm using what Joel's teaching me, and just to keep it going. So it's very different, I'm learning to move. I'm learning to use my legs. With Tony, I wasn't really using my legs. It was more me getting hit a lot, and I had to hit back too. So one's brawling and one's boxing. So
but I think from a layman, I was talking. I don't remember if I did this on the podcast or just talking to Tony one time. I think maybe it was on the podcast. I was talking about Mayweather, and I said, he's one of the greatest boxers of all time, but his fights were boring because it's just, you know what I mean? Because he's just such a good technical boxer. Like, he never gets hit, he never gets in trouble. There's never a big exchange. He just boxes them to death. But then, you get a guy like Mike Tyson, who's not necessarily the best boxer, but he's just a killer in there. Those are the fights that sell. But then you get a guy like Lennox Lewis, who can box and can fight, or like an Evander Holyfield. And those are the money guys, those are the guys that they're skilled and they can go, and hopefully, as you grow and continue to go on in the sport and you become a professional, you can do both.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm improving every day. Boxing has changed a lot, and I think Tony hasn't. He knows one way, and there's so much other out there, and I didn't really see that, because I was always just, I trust Tony, with teaching me. But there's so much more out there. There's so much more exercises that will help you improve a lot. There's so much more exercises and workouts you can do that will improve. And some people have a certain way that they don't want to learn a certain way. That's totally fine too. But I think there's so much more into boxing than how it used to be in the 80s and 90s and late 70s to now. And you've seen that, like with Floyd.
Yeah.
It's very different from Floyd fighting and then when another OG fighter fight or box.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because one of the things that I found most interesting about the podcast with Tony was him basically kind of saying like these guys are nothing. Not necessarily saying they're nothing, but
Yeah. He just says
they're
it's
good
boring.
fighters,
He says
but
it's boring and it
yeah,
sucks.
and just saying, to say these guys are the greatest fighters of all time, is really poor, poor in poor taste.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, as somebody who, like I said, I mean, you think you would acknowledge that you're still considered an influencer boxer or a celebrity boxer rather than say like a pro boxer that comes up in the traditional way. Why do you think it is right now? It seems that celebrity boxing tends to be more popular and more watched than actual boxing. And it's surprising to me because as a boxing fan, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you got Triple G and Canelo having wars. You've got Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Wilder, those are some vicious knockouts.
Yeah.
And then Tyson Fury just drops him. I mean, it was shocking when I saw those two fighting. I was like, when I heard they were going to fight, I was like, that dude's going to drop that big white guy, the big fat white guy. Like, no,
And I thought Deontay Wilder was going to win too, and I've been blessed to know his trainer too. Yeah, I met him at one of the first fight I've ever went to in Las Vegas. He was there. And for me, and he was telling me because I didn't know who he was, and then when he was like talking to me, he was like, "Yeah, I train. I got I'm with Deontay Wilder. We're doing this and that." I was like, "Whoa, like you're doing that?" I was like, before, from how I was taught, my last training camp, he's like, "Nah, like you're draining yourself. You're doing this and that," and everyone has their different way. His way was just a lot different, and he was showing me and teaching me these things. I was like, "Dang, like and we got along. He understood the boxing and." He knows I want to be a pro, but they're doing a lot of different stuff. And I think Deontay Wilder when he comes back, he's going to look a lot different. And pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a great fighter.
He is, and I thought he was exciting.
He's exciting. He's one of my favorite boxers.
It used to be back in the in the 90s, early 2000s, a fight was an event. The last real boxing event that I remember that was like a big time event was when Floyd fought Conor McGregor.
Yeah, that was the first. I think one of the first like different boxing.
Yeah, it was kind of the first celebrity exhibition fight, kind of thing. And I remember it was like, oh, thank goodness, there's finally a fight to like have a party, And I was thinking, man, when Fury and Wilder were going to fight, that maybe that would be one, and there just wasn't the interest. But when it comes to these celebrity boxing fights, there's a lot of interest there. Why do you think that is?
I think it's just because it's different, and it's you don't know who's going to win. You don't, boxing now, you kind of know who's going to win, and not all the good fighters are fighting good fighters. They're fighting people. All the good fighters are fighting, not many, like nobodies, Back then, boxing, you had to fight people. You had to fight. Like when Tony was fighting, you had to fight a champion to become a champion. Now there's so many belts and different ways to become a champion. It's like, dang, I didn't even know you were a champion. Right. But with these celebrity fights, these celebrity fights, it's different. You don't know who's going to win. You have an audience, you have a fan base already. And it's just different. It's more exciting. People will want to see people fight. And and it's fun. I fell in love with the sport, and when I'm ready for my professional debut, it's going to be big. It's going to be special, and it's going to be crazy, especially for Sacramento.
Do you have in your mind an amount of fights you want to do before you do that debut?
No, I don't. Right now I'm taking my time. A lot of people rush this sport, especially people that are doing these celebrity fights or influencer fights. And for me, I'm taking my time. When I'm ready and when the people around me think I'm ready is just when we'll do it. We already turned down some pro fights, actually. We turned down two. Wow. Yeah, we turned down two. And those two fights were really a big opportunity. And I wanted to take it, but it just didn't make sense. And
Yeah.
those opportunities came literally the first week of me training out here.
Mm.
And those were the opportunities I always spoke about with Tony. And, for me to say no and to not have, to have a different trainer, it kind of sucked. But at the end of the day, I have to be smart. And a lot of people aren't smart when it comes to fighting. They just jump into it. Oh, like that's a quick money. Oh, let me do that. And then they get knocked out or they lose. It's like not smart at all. So,
Right.
um, when the time comes, I'll be ready. Right now, I'm just focused on this one, this Saturday, and and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple of questions that I kind of tend to ask everybody. You just want to know from your life. What would you say was your biggest success? I mean, you're young. You're 22 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think has been your biggest success thus far?
Moment wise,
Yeah, just what would you say? Like, was the thing that you would say you feel like you really feel proud of the success of one thing? What would it be?
I would say right now, I would
Yeah.
say where I'm at is a blessing to be able, for me to be able to live on my own right now for the first time in my life, to live in Las Vegas, to train with professionals, world champions. I would say right now, all the stuff that I used to pray for that I always wanted to, it finally is coming true. And I've worked so hard. And for me to be able to say, like, I'm living by myself, especially in Las Vegas, it's a blessing, for me to have a
Yeah.
world champion as a trainer. It's a blessing. And for me to be able to be okay, I'm not happy with I am happy with where I'm at, but I'm not, I want to improve so much more,
Yeah.
and I'm only going to improve so much more. But for me right now, I'm very happy. And I wish the success right now I'm getting, I wish I would have got that back home. I wish the
Mm,
resources would have been more back home.
mm,
And, I'm just happy here. I really am.
yeah. So what would you say? Well, first of all, before I go into the next thing, you mentioned
Mhm.
you prayed. Are you would you consider yourself a religious person?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I was baptized. I always went to church with the family every Sunday.
Mm,
I still believe in God. I still have morals. I still try to stay in a straight line. I believe in doing good, and good will happen.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, yeah, I do believe in religion. So yeah.
Nice. Are you a were you baptized Christian, Catholic?
Yeah, I was baptized Christian, and then we
Oh,
went to Capital Christian every weekend. I went to the
oh,
summer
Capital
camp.
Christian. Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was a good church. It was really good, but I felt like a lot of people judged me. A lot of people, I've been judged my whole life, and I didn't let it get to me, and now I'm here boxing and
Judged
living
you
a
for
great.
what? What was the judgment for?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people think they assume I'm this bad guy, or they assume I'm like this cocky dude, and I'm really not. When I went to
Mm,
Rio, I never had a girlfriend. I remember sitting by myself at lunchtime, and I was perfectly happy with it because I knew in a few years that I'm never going to see these people again. I knew where I was going to go, and I decided to take that time to grow mentally, physically. I was working out at lunchtime. I was doing so many things that I knew that was going to improve later on, and a lot of people, especially kids in high school, they need to be around like 100 people. They need to be around attention. They need to be around all these people, or they feel alone. For me, I could be by myself eating and be happy, and I was. Don't
right.
get me wrong, I had some friends, but I would be perfectly fine sitting by myself.
That's interesting. Coming from a social media influencer, that's really interesting to hear. Because I mean, people probably have a notion of an influencer that you always want, the attention. They see the videos. I mean, you're clearly proud of that Rolex you got.
Oh,
And it's
thank
nice, dude. It's nice. It's a nice Rolex,
you.
and your car and your things like that you post, and they probably think, look at all the attention, but you're just fine sitting there by yourself.
Yeah,
Would you say before you became an influencer, were you an outgoing dude, or were you kind of introvert? What would you
yeah.
think?
I mean, I've always been an outgoing dude, but I mean, for me, I'm perfectly fine with being with a crowd and following, having a crowd with you because that's what I'm doing. But I'm also perfectly fine being by myself. Like people right now, people who are like, there's boxes right now at the club, strip clubs.
Hmm.
I want to be at home. I like being at home. I like being by myself too, and it's a, you know, I can relate to both. But I just believe if I stay focused on myself and I don't follow the crowd, I can go far. And I thought that in high school, and it's been working.
That really tells me a lot about you because you know I remember thinking there's a movie. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a movie out there called Dazed and Confused,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the movie, Randall Cobb, who's the high school quarterback, and they had this whole night of partying, and he's hanging out with his friends, and
Mm-hmm.
he sits there and he says, he's complaining about school. They want him to sign this thing saying he's not going to party and do all this stuff, and he refuses to sign it, because he's just being kind of difficult.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend says, you act like you're so oppressed. You got the run of this school, blah, 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 blah. And he says, sure, yeah, but if I start, he goes, but if I start referring to these years as the best years of my life, remind me to kill myself. You know what I mean? And it's funny because when you're in high school, I wish more kids understood this, and I try to instill this in my kids because I'm a few years past, and I remember thinking so many things were so big in high school, like such big deals,
Mm-hmm.
that I look back and I'm like, man, that really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And you got so much life ahead of you, even at you, 22 years old. I mean, look at what you've done. Like you've been out of high school for 4 years. You're boxing on pay-per-view. Like you've been on a date with Kylie Jenner. You're the dude. You're the dude sitting there. I hope more people follow you because you're the dude sitting there eating lunch by himself, being judged. No, now people aren't really talking to you. And then next thing you know, boom, your whole life is different. And next thing you know, you're achieving all your hopes and dreams. And it's something that you envisioned in your own mind. And people probably told you were crazy.
Yeah.
And you just kept grinding and grinding. And here you are. And so where do you see this ending up? Where do you see the boxing ending up? Are you going to do 10 fights and quit? You want to be a champion? You think you're going to be the world champion? What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I want to be a champion. Right now, I'm just taking my time, like I said, and I want to keep going. This my last fight, my first fight, it was great. It was built so much traction. Now going into this fight, I'm working hard, and we're just going by it. I'm fighting. I'm being active. I'm working hard. I envision so much more for myself, and it's crazy. It's only been a year. And so imagine 2 years, imagine 5 years. I think, it's only elevating and I'm so happy, because I've worked so hard.
Yeah. And what do you think it is? So you've clearly been successful in these things that you've wanted to do.
Yeah.
Abnormally successful. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would like to be an influencer, would like to be a boxer, and you've been successful. What do you think is if you were to pinpoint something, if someone was to say, how did you get your success? What would it be?
I think it would be, I would say two things. I would be like, how's your work ethic? And then how's your mentality? My mentality is not the normal 20-year-old mentality. Even at 17, I was still thinking how I'm thinking. And people didn't like that. People thought, why are you thinking like that? That's never going to happen. Or, hey, you want to do this? Even me boxing. You want to box? Well, you can't box. You can't do this and that. But what? I'm boxing. Even a lot of professionals, I'm doing more views in boxing than they have 10 fights, So people can say whatever they want, but I think it's just my mentality and my work ethic. And
what is it about your mentality? What when you say mentality, you mean like you don't listen to people when they're talking trash? You mean like,
I think mentality, I'm very strong, mentally, I'm very mature for my age, like I said, there's people right now going to the clubs, smoking, drinking. I don't judge people, but hey, that's not me. I feel like if I do that, it's going to take me away from where I want to go.
Yeah.
And, I would say, I never let the crowd or what people say get to me, even if it was anything, I never let that affect me. Even when I was in high school, I've been booed in high school. I've been laughed at in high school, and, I've never had a girlfriend in high school. So I never let it get to me. I don't know. I just felt like I've been different all my life. And I feel like I am different. And I'm very marketable. I'm very different. And it's just, I don't know. It's just I've always had this mentality, and when I want something, I go after it. And, not a lot of people have that instilled in them. And I believe I do.
It's interesting that you say that. And I'll just share this quick story. Every time I do these, I end up talking about myself a little bit, but when I came back, I served a mission for my church from 19 to 21.
Uh-huh.
And then I came back and I started going to school, and not a lot of resources financially, so I had to work full time. I had to go through school full time. And I remember telling my best friend, I remember telling him go to law school, and he said, "I bet everything I own you're not going to make it." And throughout my 20s, because it took me, I had to work I had to work full time, so school took longer, everything took longer. It took me about 8.5 years to get through it all.
Yeah.
With law school. And, going through that in my 20s, I'm looking at all my friends, right? And I'm taking jobs that, are going to help me become a better lawyer. And I'm not making money that I should be making or I could be making elsewhere. I got friends making at the time back then, $60,000, $70,000 a year was a ton of money.
Yeah. That's still a lot of money.
Yeah, and they're making that, and me, I'm not, right? And I'm struggling, and I got kids, and I've got all these things going on, and so my 20s were hard, when they were out going out and they were partying and they were doing those things. I was in the books and I was eating peanut butter and jelly and top ramen, right?
Yeah.
So my 20s were pretty terrible, as far as when it comes to. But I'll tell you what,
look at you now.
My 30s were great.
You're one of the best lawyers in Sacramento. You're very successful, and I have respect for you. You've done a lot, and again, your name speaks for itself. The things you've accomplished, the things you have. I mean, and material things doesn't matter, but for the things you've worked hard for, it's special, and I'm always gonna have respect for you.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. You're gonna have to bring that car of yours down, and I'm gonna have to race that against my Cobra.
Yeah, I think your Cobra's gonna win.
So real quick before we go, I want to ask you. We've talked about your successes. What do you think has been your biggest failure, and what have you learned from it?
My biggest failure, I think it's I tend to buy a lot of stupid stuff. I think really, if I make $1,000, I'll spend $1,000, and even if it's 500, I've been stupid a lot, and I think that but I've matured so much being out here, where it's like, hey, you can't do that. Even Tony was trying to instill that in me. You got to be smart, and I feel like I've grown so much being away from home, being away from everybody, being away from my family, because I've matured so much. It's like, I'm by myself right now.
Yeah.
But so I would say that.
So you say the failure is money management been kind of hard?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But now it's tend to, like, I'm thinking more, not being dumb. That I wouldn't say it's a failure, but I would say one of those things have been hard. And then I would say probably, like, I don't want to say women, but it's like, I'm not distracted by women, but like it can come, and then people can lose themselves with that. And I wouldn't say I have a problem with women, but it could be a distraction, It's taking time away from you. It's taking time away from you growing mentally, you growing physically. And, but I wouldn't look at those as failures. I would look at them as those are life lessons, people are different every way. And, for me, it's just, I want to be, I want to be successful. I want to have things that, that I can be able to, no, actually, I don't want to have things that I would be able to pass on to my kids. I want to be able to teach my kids what I wasn't taught.
Yeah.
And I think 100%. That's way more important than, passing down a car, or passing down a house, or whatever. Cause you got to teach, here is where it's really, you need to be rich at. And for me, I want to just show everyone you could do whatever you want in this life. I mean, and I want to be successful. I want to have a family. I want to have a big family. And, it motivates me every day thinking about where else can I be, and where I can go. And, so far I think I'm on the right path, and, I'm just trying to keep going. That's it.
It's interesting that you say that. I love what you said. You said it's not a failure, it's a life lesson. And that's the way you should take it. Every time I've ever failed at anything, I failed forward, and, I've had some big failures in my life, huge failures in my life. Yep. And, but the thing is everybody who is successful has failed at something.
Yeah. For sure.
And as far as the money thing goes, let me just tell you, it's interesting. I'm glad you learned that lesson now. I have had, I've been very blessed financially over the course of my life, just due to making some smart choices and some dumb choices. And then also just by nature of my work. But one thing I've learned that's so interesting is all these, I grew up in a life where, because of the way things were in my home, my parents are awesome, but they struggled,
Yeah.
financially, and there was some strife at times because of finances and other things. And I remember thinking to myself at one point when it was particularly hard, I remember going, if I just made all the money, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
If I could just make the money, I could be happy. And then I made the money and I started spending it. I bought the
Yeah.
Cobra, I bought a pinball machine, I bought a nice truck, big
Yeah.
house, put in a movie theater in my house. I did all these things. And what I noticed was if you chase that, it's so fleeting. It'll never be enough. It'll just be the next thing. And that's what I would notice. I'd be like, okay, I remember thinking, if I just had the big house, then I'd be happy. If I just had the nice car. Well, if I had the movie theater, I'm a big movie
Yeah.
buff. If I
Yeah.
have this, and it was never enough. And finally I went around and I go, what am I doing? It's not about that. It's about spending time with the people you love. Use the money to do things, to build experiences with the people you love. And
Yeah.
and even if it's not money, some of my favorite memories are hanging out with my kids and
Yeah.
just hanging out with my kids. And you said you wanted to have kids. I have 4. It's a load, but
Yeah.
man, I love that you said that. And then as far as the girls, man, I hear what you're saying, that they can be distracting, but it's worth it for the one.
Yeah, it is, it definitely is. And yeah, I mean, it definitely is. And that's cool. You shared that and said that because, that it means a lot. And, and I remember when when I was struggling to even make $100, people
Yeah.
were saying, don't chase the money, don't chase, it'll come. Just focus on what you want to do and what you want to do and love. And when I figured, when I figured don't chase the objects, just chase on becoming better at yourself and fall in love with the process. That's when things started to come more.
Dude, I'll tell you what, that's so funny that they told you that. My boss, probably year 2, my mentor, Roger Blair, best attorney on the
Oh yeah.
planet.
Yeah.
He comes, it's bonus time, and wasn't particularly happy about it. And he goes, hey, listen, Josh, he said to me, he goes, don't worry about the money. He said, you focus on being the best attorney you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do that, the money will come. I promise you. Just be the best attorney you can be. And he's right. And
Yeah.
at the time, I thought, I'm like, you're just saying this because you're stiffing me on this bonus, right?
Yeah.
And so, but no, I mean, he was right. And so, yeah, man, I'm sure the boxing can be lucrative, but
Yeah. I
you
mean,
just
it's
like,
definitely hard at times, still. I mean, it's a very hard sport, and it's, it's very hard at times. I'm not gonna lie, but I think if you be smart, you have the right people around you, you believe in yourself, I think you should be okay.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Well, this is awesome. Let me ask you one last question.
yeah,
Let's
go
say,
ahead.
let's say 60 years from now, it's about time you're about ready to go.
Hmm.
You pass away, it's your funeral, and someone's about to give your eulogy. What's the one thing that you hope they say about you?
I want them to say, despite everything that I've been through, or everything what people said, or with what the setbacks, that I never let it get to me. I've never, I've had so many bad things happen, and I never let it get to me because I knew it was only temporary.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want them to say that I never let the small stuff get to me, or even the big stuff. I always focused on one thing, and whatever I wanted, I went after it.
That's awesome, man. If people could learn that, what you just said, and that is, anything you go through is temporary.
Yeah.
Whether it's success,
Hmm.
whether it's failure,
Yeah.
whether it's happiness, whether it's pain,
Yeah. It's
it's
temporary.
it's all temporary. And one day, and if you're going through something bad, it'll pass. You
Yeah.
know,
Literally.
and
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. And so that's awesome, man. Well, okay, so this Saturday we're gonna be watching. Where can we watch it?
Um, I'll be getting a link to order the fight. I haven't posted it yet, or I haven't shared that with, but they're working on it. Because all those little links and
Mhm.
bugs need to be
Mhm.
fixed. But
Mhm.
it be able to pre-order, I think tomorrow. Yeah, I think tomorrow actually. So I'll post it or I'll send it to you.
Are you the main event? Or is there another car?
I'm
Are you
actually the co-main event, so that's gonna
okay?
be special. I'm very excited for this. I worked hard, and yeah, I'm just excited to go out there and show what I've improved.
Who's the other main event?
Do you know who fake Drake is? The dude that looks like
No,
Drake. Oh, he
no.
looks like Drake, and he has a big following. I mean, he went viral a lot recently, or this past year, and he's fighting some big YouTuber out in Las Vegas actually.
Oh, nice.
And I think it's gonna be a big fight. I think I'm excited. It's good. It's right by the water. It's special to just even fight there and to travel. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a big fight. I'm glad. I'm excited to see how this is gonna work. With my new training, with my new trainer. And yeah, I'm just excited, and I'm ready to put on a show and get the job done.
All right, man. Well, listen, we'll have to have you back after the fight. We'll talk
Yeah,
about what you learned and do all those things, and then, when you get your next one,
yeah.
let us know. Where can my listeners follow you?
They can follow me on Albert Ochoa 05, or just look up Albert Ochoa on Instagram, Facebook, Google, all that. So yeah, just
Right.
Albert Ochoa 05.
All right, man. Good. Well, this has been great, man. I wish you luck. You're working
thank,
hard, and
thank you.
proud of you for everything you've done. And this has been the Edlow podcast, and we'll see you guys later.
No, yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm always gonna have respect for you. So thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, have a good night.